Hi everyone, I'm delighted you can join me for this webinar today, Selling Smart, Unlock Maximum Value. So this session is for business owners who are thinking about selling their company, or really anybody who just wants to understand what the process of selling a business would look like and how you can go about maximising your exit value. My name is Guy Davis. I'm one of the founders of myexit.uk. We work exclusively with UK business owners, and either we'll buy the business from the seller ourselves, or if it's not a good fit for us, we'll help the owners sell their companies the smart way to other people. So this webinar is based on some of the hard-earned experience that we've had going through our own transactions, as well as pulling in information experience from an awful lot of other deal makers. So by the end of this session, you will have a realistic idea of what it takes to sell a business. We're going to go through some practical steps that will increase your chances of getting a successful sale. Unfortunately, the statistics on number of businesses put up for sale versus number of businesses that end up selling is very, it's almost depressing. We're going to go through some deal structures that you could think about using, and we're going to finally finish with some next steps and some practical tips that you can use to get yourself ready for your own exit. So first thing we need to do is just cover off what I would think are some of the biggest sale myths that exist. Most people typically, when they sell a business, it's the first time they've done it. So there often are some misconceptions about what's really involved. So firstly, my business is worth insert number. In reality, valuation isn't a simple multiple, and it's not the same for all your buyers. The valuation of your business is going to vary vastly depending on who your potential buyer is. It's going to vary based on buyer type, their risk profile, their industry, deal terms, and how reliant the business is on you personally. So always have in mind that your business is going to be worth a very different amount to different buyers. It doesn't really matter what you think it's worth. The important thing is what buyers think it's worth. Most common problem is that most businesses sadly are worth a lot less than their owners think they are. Myth number 2, I can just sell my business on a marketplace. Lots of people do list their businesses on marketplaces. Unfortunately, in reality, and there are lots of statistics around this, few good exits come from marketplaces. You may get lucky, but this really isn't likely where you're going to find the best buyers. Passive selling is a structure that really doesn't work well in business exits. Myth number 3, a good broker can sell it for me. Well, contrary to popular belief and what they tell you, most brokers actually make most of their money from business listing fees, not sale commissions themselves. Again, the sale percentage numbers of successfully executed sales for brokers are really low. One of the problems is the broker incentives aren't usually aligned with yours. They'll often overvalue your business to get you to list with them, only to have to cut the price down the line. Very similar to an estate agent in that respect. Myth number 4, the right buyer will find me. Unlikely, I'm afraid. Buyers are busy. They might not even be looking for you. Strategic acquirers are likely even busier. So you've got to be on their radar. You've got to be in contact with them and in front of them. You need to drive this process yourself. It's not something that's going to happen passively. Myth 5, I can sell within 6 months. It's unlikely. Sales are a slow process. Even a smooth process is going to take 6 to 12 months. Most take longer. There are things you can do to speed things up, and we'll go through some of these, but prepare yourself that this is going to be a slow process. And finally, myth number 6, the best sale is the highest price. In reality, this is not even close to the reality for you. There are many more important things that will ultimately maximize your value vastly in excess of just the highest deal price somebody offers. It can be around the terms of the deal, it can be around the tax treatment, and a lower priced offer but with better tax treatment may end up with more money in your pocket. There are elements we can look at in terms of earnouts, warranties, your role post-sale, etc. So there's an awful lot of things to consider rather than just headline sale price, and we don't want to get people tied up with focusing on a price they want to sell for. We really want to make sure the overall terms are a good fit for you. Now, as I mentioned, most people when they're selling a business have likely not sold a business before, and they probably even haven't been in the position of a buyer themselves. So they don't necessarily even know what buyers are looking for. But that doesn't necessarily need to be an impediment to your successful exit. So we're going to run through some of the key things here that buyers are looking for in any business. I mean, for any business buyer, ideally what they want to see is, first off, stable, predictable cash flow. They are putting a load of money up for an asset and they want to be able to be confident they can earn their money back on that asset in cash flow. Spiky or seasonal numbers are going to create doubt and concerns unless you're selling something very seasonal like a Christmas tree farm. So predictability is a really key benefit that buyers are going to want to see. Secondly, and this is one of the biggest ones, a business that doesn't rely on you. This is really non-negotiable and one of the elements that often trips up many sellers or requires the most work to rectify before sale. If your business doesn't operate without you, then it's not worth much without you. And if you're selling it because you want to retire or pursue other interests or other projects, if that business is completely reliant on you, it's not going to be worth much to a seller. You've got to have a business that can operate without you. And we'll come on to that again later. So, no surprises here. You're going to need clean financials and transparent records. You need professionally prepared accounts. You need a clear separation between personal and business expenses, and you need reliable reporting. You will likely want to present to a potential buyer adjusted numbers, having stripped out your personal costs, which is fine, but if you're doing that, you need to be very clear and transparent about what the adjustments are and why you're making them. Buyers automatically have concerns as soon as they see adjusted numbers because it smells fishy. But in reality, they make a lot of sense and you will likely want to do it. But the key things are, the more opaque your books are, the lower your valuation is going to be, or some buyers will just walk away altogether. You've got to remember right now, and for the next 10 or 15 years, there's far more businesses for sale than there are buyers. So from a buyer's perspective, if you're presenting something that's time consuming, difficult, or has red flags, they're just going to walk away and move on to the next one. 4, growth potential. For buyers buying a business today, they are buying your future cash flows, not your past cash flows. So yeah, your past performance is going to be important to them and they're going to want to see how the business has performed, but they're buying the future, not the past. So you need to be able to give them confidence that the asset they are buying is going to generate cash flows into the future. So do you have untapped marketing channels, geographic expansion available, new products that you could launch? If you can lay out clear paths for growth to potential buyers, that's going to be really enticing to them. Number 5, moat or competitive advantage. So what is it that protects your business really? What protects you from being copied, competed away? A buyer's going to want to know that when they hand over a load of money to you, their cash flows aren't just going to evaporate overnight and there's some resilience within your business. It might be brand, recurring contract, systems, IP, relationships, whatever it might be. But understand this buyer's taking a financial risk in purchasing your business and help them understand how and where that can be a good risk for them to take. Finally, concentration risk. So this is often one that trips up many sellers. If you're in a situation where one client, one supplier, or one staff member holds the business together, that can be a real red flag and a real risk element for a potential buyer. In an ideal world, you want to diversify clients, suppliers, employees, etc. as much as you can before you go to market. It's going to help you enormously in your conversations with sellers. So, talking about seller preparation, most sellers, I would say, make the mistake of preparing their business for sale too late. The longer in advance you start the preparation process, the better things are going to be by the time you come to sell. We're talking at least 12 months to really be in a good position to be able to sell. You want to start preparing before you even begin listing. So what do you need to do? Well, first things first, you've got to remove yourself. You've got to get out of the center of the business. You've likely been, if this is your business and you started it and you run it, you have likely been the rainmaker, the ops manager, the face of the brand, the HR manager, etc., etc. You need to get out of the business and it needs to operate without you. You need to put people in place and perhaps even more importantly, you need to put processes in place. Start documenting all of your internal processes and delegating them to others. The documentation is a key element because 1, it shows potential buyers that you're really buttoned up and you know what you're doing. And 2, it provides them with some security because what it means is that new employees, staff members, managers, whatever it might be, can pick up a new process and run with it straight away if it's clearly documented. It's enormously helpful. 3, we mentioned briefly before about the impact your accounts can have. So you want to make sure you're cleaning up all the books. Strip out your personal expenses. Make sure you can present your adjusted numbers in a clean and simple way. Legal housekeeping. This can be a bit of a faff to get done, but it's an important part. You need to make sure that you've got proper contracts in place with your suppliers and your customers. Often these things are on handshakes. That's not what you need here. You need these properly contracted and documented. Any IP that's owned by the company, make sure it's owned by the company and not by you personally. If it's important IP for the business going forward, it needs to be transferable with the seller. Make sure your employees are on proper employment contracts. Make sure your leases are in place. Go through effectively all of your legal elements of the business and make sure you have proper documentation in place. You may have been operating this business in the past with many handshake deals on people you've dealt with for a long period of time, and that's great, but those handshake deals that you've relied on can end up killing potential sales, so you've got to get them down in writing. Number 5, probably time to start building a virtual data room. You need to start putting together all this information that a buyer might want to see. So you want to have in your virtual data room, and this can be as simple as a Dropbox, a Google Drive, a repository where you can add access to people, potential buyers, and you can remove access, but you want to be able to put in there your management accounts, your management reports, org charts, contracts, agreements, leases. All of this is going to form the basis of due diligence for a potential buyer. Having it together in one place is going to make due diligence far quicker and easier, and it's going to put you significantly ahead of your competition. And remember, as I mentioned, a lot of these buyers have lots of companies they're looking at for sale. So you want to take every step you can to put yourself ahead of the others. Finally, think carefully about the cash you have in business bank accounts. This is probably where you want to pull in your accountant and have a chat with them. Why is the cash so important pre-sale? Well, you need to make some decisions about what you're going to do with that cash. Often, when businesses are presented for sale, they are presented as debt-free, cash-free, i.e. all the cash is removed pre-sale. Most owners typically view the cash emotionally in the business as their cash. After all, they earned it. Absolutely fine. In many cases, you might well be better off leaving that cash in the business and selling it with the business. The reason is, you might be able to get a much better structure in terms of your tax structure if you leave the cash in the business. For example, if you draw the cash out of the business, you're likely going to take it as a dividend. You will probably end up paying high rate income tax on that. If you leave it in, it'll be subject to capital gains tax rather than income tax. That might be as low as 10% if you can gain business asset disposal relief. So, while you may feel like it's your cash, emotionally it's your cash, in reality it's the business's cash, and you might be better off leaving it in there and structuring it as part of the sale. Again, speak to your accountant, they'll help you walk through this. So I mentioned that you're unlikely to list and be able to sell your business passively. So what that means is you've got to go out and find a buyer. It is an active process, and the 4 key steps I would say are, firstly, you've got to build a target list. Build a list of potential buyers for your business. Easiest places to start are probably competitors, suppliers, customers, investors, anyone in your space who you have contact with who knows your business, and I would say specifically anybody who would benefit from owning your business. Often there may be competitors within your space who have been acquisitive in the past and acquired other businesses. Often those are hungry for more, so they could be perhaps top of the list. Second thing you want to do is create a professional deal pack. You'll already have created your data room. This is when you're putting together a well-designed kind of one-pager or short presentation deck with summary financials, team overview, growth potential, etc., etc. So whether they admit it or not, in any interaction, buyers are going to be judging your professionalism and seriousness. If you turn up and the first interaction they have with you, you've got a virtual data room with all the documents in, you've got a one-page deal memorandum, and you've got a short presentation deck with a summary in, you are going to be so much further ahead of the other potential sellers, and you're going to present yourself as a much more attractive prospect. So third, confidential outreach. So you may not want to get in touch with competitors, suppliers, etc., because it might, if things don't work out, it might damage your relationships going forward or damage your competitive position going forwards. Here you can use a trusted advisor or an intermediary to reach out to your target list without disclosing who you are. This can keep things controlled, protect your business, but still allow conversations to begin with serious parties. Finally, number 4, you've got to be prepared to follow up here. Most good buyers aren't going to bite immediately. You need to nurture these conversations. This can be a slow process. And again, you've always got to remember you're not selling a product here, you're selling the future of your business. You're selling the future cash flow. So this can be a slow process. So I would say kind of settle in and don't try and rush things. Now, deal structures. There's an awful lot on this slide. We'll kind of walk it through one by one. There's an awful lot of deal structures out there. Here I've just put down kind of the 5 most common ones that you might want to think about. Now, one of the most misunderstood elements of selling a business is often how you get paid. It's very rarely a big amount on day one. That's actually not necessarily a bad thing for you, but let's go through some of the most common structures and the implications. So first, on the left, all cash deal. Some people say this is the unicorn. You get all the cash up front, off you go. It does happen, but it's rare, and it's usually only with small low-risk businesses or distressed sales. If it does happen, the valuation you're going to get here is going to be very low. The reason is buyers taking on a significant amount of risk by paying all cash for your business up front. Tax-wise, you're going to likely be in for full capital gains tax on the whole amount straight away, unless you're qualifying for business asset disposal relief. Number 2, deferred consideration. Much more common. Here you agree a fixed amount for your business and it is paid in instalments over time. So this can help buyers with cash flow and risk management. For you as a seller, you need to be aware that your capital gains tax is usually due on the full sale price up front, even if the money arrives in later stages. So bear that in mind, you might owe tax on the whole amount, even though you haven't received the whole amount yet. There are ways around this. Again, talk to your accountant. For example, if the deferred element is structured as loan notes rather than simply paid, then there are opportunities to defer the tax until the loan notes are redeemed. And that can help with your planning a lot. Number 3, earnouts. This is one of the most common deal structures. It's a really good way of sharing the risk between the buyer and seller. So what you're effectively doing is you're saying a portion of your sale price is going to be based on the future performance of that business. Earnouts create great alignment of interests. They can create tension if they're not clearly defined. Tax-wise, they're typically treated as contingent consideration. So it may be the case that part of the gain is taxed in the year of the sale and the remainder in later years. Again, you may be able to use loan notes here, speak to your accountant. But earnouts are a really good way of sharing the risk. In simple terms, what it effectively means is you're going to get some of the cash up front and the remainder of cash you are going to get based on how the business performs. If the business does really, really well and hits all the targets you said it would, you're going to earn well. If it's a complete disaster and the buyer's bought a real pup, then they're going to pay you less. So it's a great way to align interests. Partial exit, or often called an equity roll. This is where you sell a portion of your business now and you retain some equity for the future. This can be really tax efficient because you can realise your gains in tranches, effectively selling chunks of your business over time. It's also a great way to maintain some involvement, and it can be really good for key customer relationships because they'll see that you're still involved and you're not just disappearing. Number 5, EOT, or Employee Ownership Trust. This is a more nuanced structure, but it can work really well for some people. EOT allows you to sell your business to your employees via a trust structure. It's become increasingly popular here in the UK because there are very attractive tax incentives. The key is you as the seller sell 100% of your shares tax-free. There's no capital gains tax due, as long as you meet the qualifying criteria, which are technical, so you've got to make sure you use an expert here when you're going through this structure. The EOT structure is not usually going to give you cash up front. It's going to pay you out over time. So you're going to need a stable cash generative business to be able to do this, and you'll likely need to stay involved for a period of time to get a smooth transition. Also bear in mind that yes, you're going to be CGT free, but you're going to end up with a lower valuation than perhaps if you sold on the open market. So again, working with a deal savvy accountant, a tax advisor early here is going to really help you, because the deal structure you use and how it's structured for tax makes a big difference in how much money ends up in your pocket at the end of the day. A brief aside here, I want to just mention something that's often misunderstood, concept of information asymmetry. And the reason I'm raising this here is Information asymmetry is the reason why all cash upfront deals are so rare, and if they do happen, the valuation is so much lower. What it effectively means is that in any transaction, there is a significant difference in knowledge and information between buyer and seller. This is the information asymmetry. The seller knows everything about their business, including all the skeletons in the closet. The buyer knows very little. What that does is it places information risk on the buyer. They're not going to find out all the skeletons and the true day-to-day until after they bought the business. It's for this reason that few transactions involve cash up front. If the buyer's paying 100% cash down on closing, the buyer's taking all of the financial risk, in addition to taking all of the information risk. So all of the information risk on buyer, all of the financial risk on buyer. That's not really a fair structure, and if a buyer's going to do that, they're going to want to pay a really low valuation for it. So one of the reasons why things like deferred consideration or particularly earnouts are so popular and work so well is because in something like an earnout, you are sharing the financial risk together. So yes, you're accepting that the buyer is taking the information risk, but you are sharing the financial risk between buyer and seller going forwards. It's a lot easier to get good deals done using something like an earnout. Also, from a buyer perspective, if I'm looking at a business as a potential acquisition and the seller is dead against using an earnout, that's a big red flag for me, because if they're confident in this business and they're confident that it will continue to operate well without them, why wouldn't they want to do an earnout? Somebody not wanting to do an earnout is a red flag that perhaps they know something I don't about the future of this business and they want to get out quick before things go south. So something to think about. Now, when it comes to actually kind of negotiating deals, I have stolen a few tips from Alex Hormozy, who has an enormous amount of content around this area, and I think he puts out some really high quality stuff. So all credit to him for these, but some negotiation tips you might want to think about. First up, have options. If you're going into negotiations with somebody and they are your only option, it's going to change how you negotiate. You want to be in a situation where you have other backups. Ideally, you have multiple buyers on the table or multiple routes or options to be able to exit from your business. The phrase, whoever needs the deal most loses, is a kind of an apt one here, that you don't ever want to be in the situation of desperation and just desperately wanting to close a deal. Number two, anchoring. Often people say, don't be the first one to give a number. Personally, I think actually giving a number up front can be tremendously helpful. If you give a number first, you're anchoring that buyer to your valuation. It's also, I would say, very helpful to do this early on before you get into DD. I see so many people waste a load of time in due diligence and then realise that they're miles apart in valuation terms, and a deal is never going to be possible anyway. Have the conversation about valuation up front, early, get a broad understanding that you are at least on the same page when it comes to the value of the business and a potential deal structure before you waste anybody's time going through DD. But just going back to the concept of anchor first, move small. What Hormozy is saying here is, look, if you say your ask is 2 million and a buyer comes back and offers you 1, you don't then go back with 1.5. What you do is you go back with 1.9. So you set a first anchor, and your incremental movements from that should be small and very close to your initial. It sends a strong message to the buyer about exactly where you see the value and can help you get to a deal an awful lot quicker. Number 3, multiple offers. This is a hugely powerful technique. So this can work for buyers and sellers, by the way. In any kind of deal structure, I've found it is far more effective if you present multiple offers to a party. It does 2 things. 1, it makes you look really flexible and very willing and keen to work together and get a deal done. And 2, it removes the question about, are we going to do a deal or not? And instead the question now becomes, which deal are we going to do? Now, these offers you might present may have different term lengths, they may have different valuations, they may have different deal structures, etc., etc. But presenting 2, and I would say probably maximum 3, can be tremendously helpful, and I think more and more people should do this, and they'd find that they get deals done a lot more quickly and a lot more easily. 4, in addition to offering multiple offers, have it such that those offers can be broken down into individual variables. Any offer has lots of building blocks within it. They can be the time involved, i.e. how long you need to stay involved with the business. They can be the terms of the deal, the risks involved in either party, whether it's deferred consideration, earnout, etc., etc. There's all manner of different ways to structure deals, and you want to provide the ability so that these variables can be moving elements. So let's say you present one deal and you're getting close to a resolution, but the buyer wants to pay a lower price, for example. So that's one variable. They can lower the price. In return, you may want to change the time frame of the deal, or you may want to change the earnout structure of the deal. And there's all these variables that you can play with. And as you discuss these things with a potential buyer, you'll pretty quickly figure out what are the important elements to them and what are the non-negotiables. And that can help you an awful lot when it comes to getting these deals done. So, biggest deal killers. You will likely find even the best buyer out there and the best structure and deals still fall apart all the time. Some of the biggest reasons they do are inflated valuation expectations from sellers. This is often driven by brokers who want sellers to list with them, so they give very artificially high valuations. That puts a number in a seller's mind. The seller already has mentally spent that money. They've already picked out their holiday home, they've picked out their car, they've picked out X, Y, and Z. To negotiate them back from there can be a really difficult process, and it kills a lot of deals. Always remember that the market and the buyers really are going to decide your value. It's not your gut or your pride or anything like that. It's going to be which buyers can you find and what is your business worth to them. Communication is a real deal killer. If you are slow to respond, it shows a lack of organisation, lack of seriousness. In deals as well, momentum is everything in a deal. Letting weeks go by with nothing happening, it kills trust. And you want this process. Yes, it can be a slow process, but you want continued progress and continued communication. So being responsive and being helpful makes an enormous difference. Because once you've lost trust, you're not getting it back. And along those lines, surprises during the DD process are big killers. If there are skeletons in your business closet, as it were, whether it's employment contract missing, significant client dependencies, etc., big holes in the finances in the past, be upfront about them. If a buyer feels like you're hiding something, they're going to walk away, because the minute they think you're hiding one thing in their head, they have no idea how much else you're hiding. So again, if you lose that trust, you're not going to recover it. So you want to be upfront, open, honest, and make sure there are no surprises for the buyer as they're going through their DD process. Really, the DD should just be a kind of legal clarification of everything that you've already told them. You don't want them to be finding things here that put them off, because again, they're just going to walk away and they're going to move on to the next business. Finally, emotions. I put seller emotions here, but really this can be, I would say, very much either party can kill this. Sometimes sellers get cold feet and they decide actually they don't want to sell the business, or they're not emotionally ready, etc., etc. Emotions, selling or buying a business, yes, it's a financial decision. It's often also a very emotional decision for lots of people involved. You need to bear in mind that this can be an emotional process and act accordingly. Think through very carefully the implications for you. If you're selling a business that you've run for most of your working life, think through the process and think about what it's going to look like after you. You don't want to get really close to the line and then have cold feet and back out. It's a waste of time for everybody. Also bear in mind, whoever this buyer is, you're going to have to work with them going forward for at least a period of time after the integration. So make sure that this is somebody you feel like you can get along with and you can work with. You don't want to have confrontational negotiations, I would say, because you're going to have to work with these people afterwards. It should be a collaborative effort between you and the buyer to get a deal done, and then you can work together as partners during your earn-out period or handover period or whatever it is. And in line with that, I would say, always remember this isn't a zero-sum game. Deals are not party A versus party B and one wins and one loses. The best deals are always great outcomes for everybody, and everybody comes out happy and everybody feels like they've had a good deal. So just bear in mind, it's not you versus them, it's both of you Thus is the problem. Finally, next steps. What do you need to do? Well, I would say if anybody's looking to sell their business within the next 12 to 36 months, the time to start prepping is now. The sooner you get started on the work, the better, and the more likely you're going to be able to achieve a successful exit. So, thank you all for joining us today. And if you're going through a sale process yourself, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks very much.